Imagine a small boy, barefoot, his face marked by cold and hunger, walking alone through the night of a vast city. This is Lucas, just 9 years old, sleeping on the street, with a mutt for his only friend. Now, picture the shock. Among the trash, he finds a fancy wallet, stuffed with cash. 10,000 reis. Enough to change everything for him and for Popoka, his loyal companion under the awnings. Even then, Lucas does the unthinkable. He decides to return it all to the owner, a millionaire, known not for kindness or charity, but for arrogance and contempt for the poor. The scene is heart-wrenching. Lucas, on an empty stomach, facing security guards who accuse him of being a thief while he asks for help, not money, not a reward, just a plate of food. What did this boy do to reach the heart of one of the coldest men in town? And why does the whole city come to a standstill the next day because of what happens in that mansion? Stay with me, because what happens next is simply unbelievable. That night felt colder than the others. The wind didn't just sting your skin, it sliced right down to the bone. On the city's wide avenues, no one stopped. Cars sped past, people hurried beneath raincoats, pretending not to see whoever was lying on the ground. Lucas pulled the worn blanket up to his chin, knowing it didn't do much. It was as though that thin piece of cloth was just for tricking the cold, not truly blocking the wind. Popoka walked at his side, limping tonight. Maybe a stone was stuck in his paw, but Lucas didn't have the strength to check. All he wanted was to find a dry spot, an awning strong enough to survive another night without collapsing. On the way, every time they passed a diner, Lucas inhaled the air for just a moment, closed his eyes, and imagined the taste of warm bread to make his hunger hurt a little less. The smell was inviting, but then the pang deep in his belly turned into a bitter kind of anger. At night, the city looked like something else entirely. All the high-rises glowed in the windows. You could hear laughter, televisions, voices from far away. Lucas watched for a moment, gripping Popoka's makeshift leash tightly, and quietly wondered if anyone up there had ever longed so much, so deeply, for a hug. His eyes stung, and memories came flooding in. His mom, her embrace, a gentle voice promising everything would be okay. The voice faded, disappearing with the howling wind. With every step, the streets felt bigger and emptier. A woman in high heels hurried into a building without so much as glancing at him. An old man crossed the street and switched to the other sidewalk when he saw Lucas approaching. In moments like those, Lucas remembered his father's advice about courage and honesty. Always keep your head up, Lucas, even when it hurts. And it did hurt. It hurt a lot. His stomach had been growling for a long time, like something alive inside. Lucas tried not to think about it. If he did, he'd cry, and he never liked for Popoka to see. He knelt near a wall, covered the dog with a piece of blanket, stroked Popoka's ear, and whispered to soothe him. "Hang in there, buddy. Tomorrow we'll find something, I promise." Popoka gazed at him with such gentle eyes, as if he understood and accepted everything without complaint. He was different from everyone else, a true friend. Lucas felt responsible for him. He was afraid, even though he was just a child, but he knew the only thing that mattered was making sure the dog was okay, because Popoka was all he had. Storm clouds threatened above. Thick, dark, ready to burst. Lucas led Popoka down another street, searching for a cardboard box, a deeper alcove, anywhere they wouldn't get wet. They passed an open sewer, ducked into a smelly alley. The pavement was damp and slippery, but there, the wind didn't bite as hard. He sat with his back against the wall, hugging his knees, watching the night. The sound of the cars felt far, muffled. The silence pressed heavier than the cold ever could. That's when Lucas talked to his parents in his mind. "You hear me, right? I'm trying okay." But no one answered. He could only hear the rain beginning to fall, softly tapping the roofs, marking the hours Lucas spent waiting there. The longing tightened in his chest until it ached. He remembered when everything was different, nights at home, his mom reading silly stories and laughing at nothing. The smell of fresh rice, his father coming home tired, but scooping him up and always saying, "You're my courage." Now, all that was left was the sin of wet asphalt and the dread of being forgotten, too. Popoka rested his head in Lucas's lap, shivering. Lucas stroked his friend's fur, gazing up at the dark sky, hoping for a sign from some distant star. He kept a little flame burning down deep, hope that survived, silent, even there in the biting cold. When the hunger pang hit again, he pulled Popoka closer, whispered so only the dog could hear. "If we had a house, I'd make you coffee. And fries, the kind you like." The laugh was faint and faded fast. But Popoka looked up like he understood, wagged his tail, and yawned. That was enough for Lucas to feel it might somehow work out, even if it was only for one more night. The street became emptier still. Only the wind remained, swirling bags, newspapers, rubbish, and memories. Lucas closed his eyes for a bit but didn't fall asleep, listening for the faintest sound, ready to bolt if someone came. That's how it went every night, fear, longing, cold cutting to the bone. But holding the dog gave him courage. And even curled up behind a broken doorway, Lucas still dreamed. He dreamed big, even if quietly, of simple things, a family, a bed, someone telling him be careful, just for him. Unnoticed, a tear traced down his dirty face. No one saw, except for Popoka. And so the long, cold night went on, with Lucas hugging the dog, eyes closed, waiting for a morning that was always too slow to arrive. The rain starts out thin but icy, falling straight as needles. Lucas hugs his knees, sitting in the corner outside a closed bakery. His dog, Popoka, lies beside him, trembling under a scrap of cardboard. Cars speed by, splashing dirty water up onto the sidewalks. A gate creaks, someone curses in the distance, and Lucas buries deeper into his hood. Suddenly, he sees something dark near the trash bin, almost hidden in the shadow. He crawls over, curiosity piqued. It's a wallet, a nice one, leather, looks almost new. Lucas checks the street. Nobody pays him any mind. He grabs it fast, tucks it inside his sweatshirt, and hurries back under the awning with Popoka. His heart pounds. The wallet is heavy stuffed. He opens it slowly. Inside, folded bills, so much money Lucas has to count twice, thinking he must be dreaming. There are credit cards, documents, a photo of a smiling family, a man, a woman, a little girl in a red dress. For a few seconds, it's just him, Popoka, and their little world beneath that awning. Hunger stirs up courage and doubt. It'd buy us bread for months, pay for a week at Dona Marta's boarding house, even get Popoka a new leash, Lucas thinks. But then he catches the little girl's eyes in the photo. She smiles back from the other side of that paper. The rain grows heavier. Lucas swings his legs, deep in thought. Popoka licks his hand, as if he senses the struggle. Lucas sighs and hides the wallet again, deciding to wait for morning before doing anything. The night feels endless for someone so small and a dog so hungry. The wallet's plastic is smooth and cold beneath Lucas's fingers. He can't remember holding so much money before. In fact, he never has. The smell of leather mingles with the warm, old scent of the bills. He can hear the soft rustle of the notes, a sound that almost startles him amid the murmur of traffic and the rain drumming on the pharmacy awning nearby. Lucas settles on the ground, half hidden behind the trash bin, legs crossed. Popoka, sensing the tension, snuggles close and silent, watching alertly with his round eyes. The boy opens the wallet slowly, as if it were a glass chest that could shatter any second. Inside there are pictures of smiling people, a polished man with a fancy-dressed woman, and a little girl with a ponytail, all posing in front of a car. You can see sunlight on their faces. There are papers, IDs, a heavy gold bank card, a glossy business card, and, in the middle of it all, that fat stack of crisp notes, smelling of banks and upscale shops, of everything he's never had. He thinks automatically of food, cheese bread warm from the oven, little pastries, milk, a whole slice of cake just for him. He thinks of dog food for Popoka, a soft new blanket, shoes that don't blister, maybe even a week in a cheap boarding house with a real shower and a proper bed. You know when your stomach aches and you still feel guilty just for imagining things? Lucas feels both, a wild rush of hope to flip his luck in an instant, and then the weight of wondering how his parents would look at him, seeing him with all that cash in his hands. He looks again at the photo of the little girl. He gazes for a long time. She's about the age his sister would have been, if he'd ever had one, broad smile, missing baby tooth. Lucas brushes the picture with his finger, feeling a strange warmth in his chest, like someone squeezing him from inside. The city's noise is both far away and all around him. A horn blares at a stoplight. A man yells into his phone. The rain pours hard for 2 minutes. The pup shivers against the cold, and Lucas is left with the enormous loneliness of having no one to call, no home, no one waiting. He thinks, no one would know. Nobody sees me. If I just disappeared with this money, I could walk away and no one would even notice. But that photograph, sitting there among all the luxury, makes a hole inside him. It's scary to imagine someone waiting for that man. Sad to think of a child sobbing at night because her father lost everything. Lucas knows what it's like to cry alone. He knows all too well how to look for comfort in nothing. The temptation is huge. He even closes the wallet for a second, presses it to his chest with eyes squeezed shut, sweating with a strange heat. Popoka gently licks his hand, sensing the boy is different, more tense tonight. Lucas opens his eyes and looks at the dog, as if asking what to do, but of course Popoka just wags his thin tail, beating the air. The stink of the street hits his face. When he touches the bills, he imagines all the candy he could buy to sell, or just to fill his belly until he was sick. He pictures the other kids at the stoplights, eyeing him with envy. But just thinking about it, he feels something wrong. It shouldn't be like that. He opens the wallet again, picks up one of the cards, and reads slowly, Andre Montenegro. He flips through the papers, sees the owner's details, the phone numbers. His skin tingles at the thought, that guy probably doesn't want to speak to me. If he knew who I am, he'd call the police. But what if I could find him? Silence puts a weight around him. Lucas's heart pounds, but it isn't joy, it's doubt. He stares at the wet sidewalk, the car lights sliding past, his hand clutching the heavy wallet. He thinks of his mother. She always said never to take what wasn't yours. But the cold, the empty stomach, and the fear of never leaving the street gnaw at him too. He presses the wallet to his forehead for a second, like a prayer. Popoka lies at his feet and sighs, tired. The boy wants to cry but swallows it. He studies the pictures one last time, hoping to hear a voice speaking to him from inside. He loses track of time. The city's bus changes pitch, people running for buses, a couple arguing nearby, and Lucas sits there, alone with a huge secret, desire and guilt chasing each other from one heartbeat to the next. Haunted by the dream of tasting just a bit of what those photos promise, knowing, deep down, that the price might be too high for someone who still has an untarnished heart. Nights on the street smell of diesel and stale bread, but on that corner, all Lucas can sense is the razor edge of cold. He trembles atop the cardboard, Popoka curled against his chest, his pocket burning, the wallet found a block away, dropped on the wet sidewalk. He opened it quickly, checked. Cash, way more than he'd ever imagined, a phone number, a name on a business card he didn't know. He thought of fresh bread, dog food, strong coffee. He could just take it and vanish, no one would ever know. But his mother's voice came floating back, worn out. What's right is what stays with your soul, my son. Lucas took a deep breath, clenched his fists in his worn-out pockets, and hugged Popoka tight. The dog licked away a tear that slid out unbidden. The next morning, his stomach empty, Lucas walked to the address on the card. He rang the bell, his chest tight. When the gate opened, Lucas just handed in the wallet, eyes lowered. The lady smiled in surprise, thanked him, and soon came back. In her palm, 2 rolls and a promise she would never forget. Lucas walked away slowly, with Popoka at his side, heart and pocket lighter than before. A strange hush settles on the sidewalk. The sun is barely up and already hits Lucas's back as he stands before the tallest gate he's ever seen, black, heavy, with iron spikes on top, like in a horror movie. He stops, breathes deep, his hand icy even with the warmth rising off the pavement. He looks at Popoka, the dog he found months ago who's now his truest friend, and whispers, "It'll be okay." Lucas clutches the wallet tightly, feels the weight of the cash inside. He knows it's not his, knows it should be returned. But there, dirty from nights on the street, shirt stained, busted sneakers, he feels every eye sizing him up. It's a rich neighborhood. The gate is so imposing, it looks like it had never opened for someone so small. 2 security guards appear on the inside. They're huge, in uniform, scanning Lucas up and down. Popoka tucks his tail but presses close to the boy. "What are you doing here, kid?" one asks. Lucas holds up the wallet, trying to explain. "I found this in the square yesterday. Just wanted to return it to whoever lost it." The man doesn't believe him. He smirks, turns to his partner. "Always a story, huh?" he says loud, as if Lucas isn't even there. A moment's silence. The gate remains locked tight. Popoka licks the boy's hand, anxious. Lucas's stomach rumbles, days of hunger. But he didn't come to beg, just to give back what wasn't his. He looks at the guards again. "Please, just give it to the owner. Everything's in there." The men share a look, take their time, then finally call on the radio. Lucas waits. Every second feels like shame spreading on his skin, impossible to scrub away. After a few minutes, a well-dressed woman comes to the gate. "What does he want?" she asks, unsmiling. The guard answers sharply, says he found Mr. Andre's wallet. The woman asks to see it. Lucas slides the wallet through the gap, hands trembling. She checks, verifies the IDs, and suspiciously asks, "Where did you find this?" "In the square, ma'am. I saw it fall from his pocket yesterday morning. Tried to return it, but he left in his car." She sighs, a mix of relief and surprise. She glances at Lucas, then at the dog. For the first time, someone there really sees him. Thank you, she says, awkward. I'll tell him. The gate stays shut, but there's less harshness in her voice. The guards step aside, a bit less menacing. Lucas and Popoka wait one more moment, hoping something might happen. A smile, a thank you, a glass of water, but nothing does. The gate remains closed. The sun grows hotter. Lucas turns away, kicking a pebble down the walk. He knows he did the right thing, even if he left without earning anything but the certainty he hadn't turned into what the world expects him to be. Popoka trudges beside him, tail wagging slowly. Together, they leave behind the colossal gate and the hope that, one day, someone will truly see them. The gate creaks slowly, scraping the hush of the morning. Lucas swallows hard as the guard unlocks the last bolt. Men in suits watch from the porch, stony-faced. The chill drifting through the open gate seems to come as much from their eyes as from outside. Andre Montenegro stands in the doorway, tall, ramrod posture, black suit too perfect for the dim light. His cold, sharp eyes scan Lucas from head to toe. Popoka, next to the boy, gives a soft growl but clings to his dust-streaked leg. Silence weighs heavier than words. Lucas timidly extends his hand, clutching the battered leather wallet. You can see the nerves in his fingers, determined not to tremble. Andre descends 2 steps, stopping within arm's reach. His face is so stern it might have been carved from stone. What are you doing here? He finally asks, his voice frigid, heavy with authority. I found your wallet, sir, Lucas replies, barely above a whisper, eyes flitting away but honest. It was across the street, on the sidewalk. The guards exchange suspicious glances. One mutters, probably swiped it off someone, boss. Andre doesn't take his eyes off Lucas. He grabs the wallet firmly, checks the IDs, counts the cash. Nothing is missing. Silence settles again, even heavier. The dog sits, just waiting. Why'd you bring it back? What did you want? Andre's tone is more ice than inquiry. Lucas breathes deep, digging up the courage to meet the man's gaze, if only for a second. My mother always said we should do the right thing. I just wanted to return it and go. Andre weighs the words. In a flicker where anger and suspicion cross his face, something softens, maybe an old memory, maybe just surprise. The guards watch, awaiting a cue, but Andre gestures for them to wait. The wind sweeps through the clean-tiled yard. Lucas jams his hands into his tattered pockets, fighting the urge to retreat. Fear, shock, and hope prop up his courage for a few seconds that stretch like minutes. The tension lingers, but for the first time Andre does not seem quite sure what to say. Andre stands still, wallet open in his hand. His face is tight, lips a thin line of irritation. But behind the stiff mask, there's weariness, deep circles under his eyes, red from lack of sleep. Silence thickens on the front step, just the faint whir of the electric gate behind them. He hurriedly goes through the wallet, rigid fingers searching as if for something lost. Suddenly, a small slip falls out, an old photograph. Lucas, still and silent, watches, and, before the wind can snatch it away, he catches the picture, the careful touch of a boy who learned everything can break. Lucas studies the photo for a moment. He sees a little girl with a bow in her hair and Andre himself, younger, with a gentler smile, arms around his daughter. The Andre standing now beneath the harsh porch light looks like a different man. Lucas, shaking, holds the picture out to Andre. You must care about this, he says softly, without challenging. Andre takes the photograph, swallows hard. His anger seems to drip away from his fingers, replaced by silence. He regards the picture, his thumb tracing the faded faces. A tear, unexpected, wells at the edge of his eye. Lucas notices. He wants to speak but only clutches his jacket to his chest. Andre's hand, which shook the wallet so rigidly, trembles now. Popoka, the boy's skinny mutt, shuffles over and nudges Lucas's leg, sensing the shift. The guard, embarrassed, pretends to check the street. Andre looks at Lucas anew. There's no fury left, just raw grief, and a strange recognition. The boy's loneliness is not so different from his own. For a moment, the gulf between them narrows. Silence reigns. Lucas only nods slightly, understanding. For a moment, both hold on to the invisible threat of loss. No words needed, everything said. The high wall between their lives begins, at last, to crack. Andre stood there with his daughter's photo between his fingers, the iron gate behind him, his eyes fogged with exhaustion. He'd done everything by routine, grip the wallet tight, breathe deep, offer a 100-real note with a hint of pride behind his lips. No one spoke at first. The guards simply watched from the shadows. The skinny dog beside Lucas wagged his tail carefully, suspicious. Lucas, small and dirty, first eyed Andre's hand, then his face. He could see the effort there, the urge to settle things quickly, as grown-ups do. But when Andre offered the banknote, expecting it to be accepted without question, Lucas took a step back. "No, thank you, sir," he said, voice small but clear. "I don't want money." A gust of wind stirred dried leaves on the doorstep. The guards narrowed their gaze. Andre hesitated, taken aback. "Huh? What do you mean?" he muttered, awkwardly pocketing the note. Lucas drew a long breath, scratching the dog's ear. "I just wanted a plate of food. For the dog, too, if possible." That simple request made Andre feel the weight of his money here, useless, as though what was missing couldn't be bought at all, neither food nor a different kind of comfort, something he himself may never have offered. Silence thickened again. Andre straightened his collar, looked at Lucas's battered shoes. There was no humiliation in the request, but a quiet pride, a refusal to be bought, a hunger that wouldn't trade for just anything. The dog sniffed the air from inside the house, licked his paws, settled on the floor. Andre noticed the trembling hand, the nervousness of someone who didn't know how to react to such a raw gesture. Warm light leaked from the kitchen inside, and, just briefly, the mansion seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the businessman to respond to a simple request impossible to solve with money. Inside the mansion, silence pressed in. Rain lashed the windows, making everything seem colder still. The perfume of wealth mingled with the wet draft blowing from the open door. The guards, still tense, cast sidelong glances at Lucas, as if he were a ghost who belonged elsewhere. Andre remained standing, arms folded, trying to keep his face set, but looking at the boy and his dog with a hollow ache in his chest. Lucas kept his eyes on the floor. His legs trembled, not knowing if he'd be scolded, if the police would be called, if they just wanted to get rid of him some other way. It seemed like the world had paused for a few seconds to watch the skinny, rain-soaked boy hugging Popoka's leash, waiting for any fragment of kindness. That was when Donna Helena appeared at the top of the stairs. She was tall, with fair hair tied back and delicate hands, someone who never had to raise her voice. She stopped on the marble step, clinging to the banister as if for courage. Her eyes weren't cold or hard like her husband's. Instead, they held an ancient sorrow, the kind Lucas only remembered from watching his own mother while she was still alive. Helena stood watching the boy for a few seconds, and in that hush, her heart melted. She descended slowly, each step echoing. Her dress trailed softly on the polished floor, but when she stopped in front of Lucas, the whole atmosphere seemed to change. "What's your name?" she asked gently, almost in a whisper. Lucas swallowed hard. "Lucas, ma'am. And this is Popoka. He's my friend." She looked at the dog, who wagged his tail soundlessly. Helena knelt carefully, a rare thing for her, and extended her hand. Popoka, wary, sniffed and gently licked her elegant fingers. Helena smiled. It wasn't big, but it was real. The staff exchanged looks. Nobody had ever seen Helena smile for a stranger. She turned her attention back to the boy. Her gaze was calm, but with something deeper underneath. A compassion strong enough to break down any wall. Her voice was steady but kind. "It's cold out there, Lucas. You and your friend must be exhausted. Come in. We'll fix you both a proper dinner." Tom stopped again. Even the oldest servant stood gaping. No one had ever seen anything like it. The doorman behind the glass muttered under his breath, "Did she invite the boy in?" Andre was speechless, staring at his wife as though he barely recognized her. But Helena didn't hesitate. She held the door wide, signaling Lucas to come. Lucas froze, surprised, unsure if he'd heard right. He looked at Andre, then at Helena, then at Popoka. The old fear of being distrusted was still there. But something in the woman's face made him believe. For a moment, he was just a normal child being called in to eat. It wasn't charity. It wasn't pity. It was a welcome. He held Popoka's makeshift leash tighter, bit his lip, and stepped gingerly inside. His battered shoes left muddy prints on the plush carpet. A different warmth seeped into him, running up his legs, filling his stomach, not from the room itself, but from the sudden sense that maybe, just maybe, this could be safe. Popoka followed right behind, tail wagging, looking nervously at the crowd. No one had the heart to send the dog away. Helena knelt and stroked his head before turning to the maid. "Sylvia, a plate for Lucas, please. And for this friend of his, too. Whatever's good, make it special." Sylvia, a bit taken aback, nodded. The cook eyes the scene, a spoon in his hand, uncertain if it's really happening. For the first time in months, in that house, someone was in charge with their heart, not with fear. Lucas watched everything, shy and timid. He was scared to touch things. Popoka sniffed a chair, but lay down quietly. The boy almost wanted to cry but held it in. He glanced up at Helena and murmured, "Thank you, ma'am. Sorry about the dirty feet." Helena called him closer, gently smoothing his tangled hair as only a mother could. She didn't say a word, but Lucas felt that gesture was worth more than any compliment. In the hallway, the bright lights made his face glow. Lucas took in everything. The pictures on the wall, the thick wooden staircase, the family photos of a little girl, all smiles. Andre trailed behind, silent, wrestling with things inside he didn't understand. He knew something was changing that night. He just didn't know what. And so, quietly, led by courage and an open heart, the cold loosened its grip on the house. Helena went up again, calling Lucas and Popoka to the kitchen. And now, there was no fear in her eyes, just hope. That night, for the first time in ages, someone truly wanted Lucas and even Popoka to feel welcome. Nothing else was needed. The smell of freshly cooked rice drifts through the big kitchen. Lucas sits on one side of the table, his hands sticky with nervous sweat. He stares at the shining cutlery, the deep bowls, the steaming food. He can't quite believe it's really for him. It's been days since his last proper meal. Popoka lies near the chair, eyes alert. Andre, silent, serves himself first. Helena quietly pushes the dish toward Lucas. He takes a little, his stomach throbbing with hunger. He doesn't know where to look and pretends to study the trails of steam rising from the rice. The room is quiet, just the clinking of silverware and the ticking of the clock. Lucas eats slowly, afraid to finish too quickly. He's embarrassed by the sounds of his belly and by his awkward grip on the fork. Helena notices and smiles at him kindly. Popoka laps up the rice that falls to the floor. Lucas bends down, scratches the dog's head, his fingers still cold. Andre watches, hiding his reaction by scratching his beard. Though he tries to mask it, he feels moved by the boy's gentle, polite manner. Helena pours more juice into Lucas's cup. A splash of lemon lands on the white tablecloth, and they both share a quiet laugh. The food's aroma throws Lucas back to old afternoons, burned beans with his mother, the leftover bread she'd leave by the neighbor's gate. Homesickness stings his chest. Silence is broken only by Popoka's quiet snoring. Lucas finishes his meal. He murmurs thanks. Helena hands him a roll. He splits it and shares half with Popoka. Andre says nothing, but something in his expression softens. For an instant, the tension thaws. 3 people and a dog, sharing food, hope, and a bit of warmth in the big house. Helena is first to notice, Lucas picking at his fork, as if worried everything might vanish if he looked away. The food, nearly cold, but he doesn't seem to mind. Popoka sprawls under the table, paw outstretched, dreaming perhaps of a better life. Helena sits beside Lucas, with the care she used with kids at the orphanage. "You okay? Need anything else?" she asked softly. Lucas looks up, big dark eyes far older than his years. He shakes his head. Andre remains quiet and distant, watching with an awkward intensity. The silence hangs over them, and no one quite knows how to break it. Suddenly, Helena smiles. "You know, when I was little, my parents said a new house only truly becomes a home with the sound of laughter. Do you sing, Lucas?" Lucas shrinks in embarrassment. He shrugs. "A little," he mumbles, shy. "To myself, when it gets really cold outside." Andre raises an eyebrow, curious, still trying to appear detached. Helena rests her hand on the table. "How about singing a piece for us? No one will judge, I promise." Lucas hesitates, looks at Popoka, at the window, maybe calculating the distance to the door. But there's so much kindness in her request, so utterly free of obligation, that he finds the courage. He closes his eyes and begins, low and full of longing. "If I close my eyes, I can't feel the cold. Of the ground, or the night, or my heart. I just remember the smell of warm food, and a voice that sings a song." Lucas's voice is thin but sincere, and soon the house fills with that fragile, hoarse melody, a ribbon of hope floating through the air. Andre, who had never heard even his own children sing to him, feels a sting behind his eyes and turns his attention to his wine glass to hide it. Helena lets a single tear slip as she grips Lucas's hand when he finishes. For a long moment, nobody speaks. Popoka wakes, stretches, and nudges the boy's thigh. Andre coughs to mask the emotion. "Yeah, I think all we need now is a bit of joy in this house," he mutters, nearly to himself. Helena glances around. Lucas, shy. Helena, proud. Andre, moved despite himself. Maybe, she thinks, hope is made of just that, new gestures and old songs. After dessert, Lucas wants to express his gratitude. Awkwardly, he asks the maid if he can help, and she, surprised, lets him. Together, They wash dishes in silence, Lucas careful not to break anything, feeling newly protective of these things that everyone else takes for granted. In the corner, Popoka perches by the door, pole resting on the threshold. When he finishes, Lucas looks around. The big kitchen, fragrant, all the pots shining in the sink, feels less intimidating now. The maid gives him a small smile and leads him to the guest room. In the hall, he hears voices, Helena and Andre, talking softer than usual. No one mentions the chaos of the day, but there's something lighter in the air, a gentleness that had always been missing. In the bedroom, Lucas sees the tidy bed and still doubts it's meant for him. He throws himself down, Popoka padding up confidently to curl beside him. The boy glances around once, then closes his eyes with a sideways smile. Later, Andre, already in pajamas, opens the bedroom door quietly. In the dim light, he sees Lucas sleeping soundly, the dog at his side, both breathing together. He stands there for a moment, watching, a peace lingering in that room he hasn't felt in years. Without a word, he gently draws up the blanket over the boy and strokes the dog's back. He slides the door closed, feeling a quiet hope in his chest, a simple belief that things could really change. The sun is barely up and already the mansion is buzzing with murmurs. Cooks prepare breakfast, the strong aroma filling the hall. Helena bustles, giving orders, checking silverware, making sure all the garden doors are locked. Lucas wakes early, too, but keeps to his kitchen corner, Popoka curled at his feet. The dog wags his tail, sensing a different mood. Lucas notices the sideways glances from the staff, some pitying, others hopeful. Upstairs, Andre paces restlessly, shirt creased, tie in hand. He stops before the mirror, rehearses what he'll say, but the words fail. He thinks of his daughter, of all he's lost, and how impossible it seemed to rebuild anything new. His eyes gloss over, but he quickly composes himself and heads down, resolute. The first reporters arrive early. Cameras aim at the house, flashes nearly blinding workers and nosy neighbors gathered behind the iron gate. The gate opens slowly. Helena, proud yet tense, announces only those on her list may enter. Andre asked for Lucas. The boy arrives, shy, clinging to Helena's hand, Popoka glued to his leg. Andre crouches to his level. He whispers, "Don't worry, okay? Everything's going to be fine. I promise." Lucas just nods, eyes gleaming with both fear and joy. Everyone gathers in the main room. Cameras and press are set. Andre breathes deep, grips the microphone with trembling hands. He looks at Lucas and smiles. His voice falters as he speaks of loss, of longing, of learning to begin again. He tells the story of a boy who returned a wallet without asking for anything in return, just a meal for himself and his dog. Reporters scribble furiously. Helena wipes a tear with her apron. And then, before all present, Andre announces he's decided to adopt Lucas. That here, for the first time in years, the mansion is a home again. The word spreads through the garden like warm wind. Neighbors move to tears, reporters exchanging looks, Popoka barking with joy. Lucas doesn't understand it all yet. He just feels Helena's tight hug and the almost fatherly gaze from Andre. For the first time, he doesn't feel invisible. From the gate, the whole city watches. The timid sun peeks in, filling the mansion with hope. The reporters hardly know where to point their cameras. No one expected that. Amid so many fancy guests, the center of the party would be Lucas, standing there in squeaky new shoes and a jacket far too big for him. Andre squeezed his hand, pride shining in his watery eyes. Helena, beside him, dabbed her scarf over a discreet tear. Even Popoka, who'd never seen a plush carpet, hopped for joy, wagging his tail like mad. A journalist asks Lucas how he feels. He thinks for a second, fiddling with a thread on his sleeve, looks at Andre and Helena, then answers shyly. "It's like I found my family along with that wallet. I've never had a hug like this, or a house that smells of fresh bread." The entire crowd falls silent. Andre can't help himself. He kneels and wraps Lucas in a warm embrace. "You saved more than my wallet, Lucas. You saved us from forgetting what joy feels like in this house." The kitchen staff dry their eyes behind the door. Popoka barks as if clapping. Lucas feels his chest lighter. No fear of falling asleep there, because now he knows, this is home. Helena kisses his forehead, and they stand together on the porch, watching the sunset turning the garden trees to gold. The journalist switches off the mic, satisfied, and the world seems so much brighter. That night, among laughter and the smell of coffee and fresh cake, Lucas drifts off, feeling for the first time the sheltering arms of a real family, without the fear of waking up alone. Days in the mansion are different now. The gate that was always closed stands wide open, letting in the sunshine, the breeze, and even curious neighbors. To strangers it might seem minor, but inside, everything is new. Everything has changed. Lucas wakes up early without worry. He no longer curls up against the cold or freezes at distant sounds. He smells the coffee Helena makes. He sits at the table, shy yet attentive, the warm bread, the mug of milk, Popoka leaping by his side hoping for a bite. Andre, now his father, still learning the daily rhythms, tries each morning to wish him good day. At first it's nearly a whisper, Lucas mumbling back, cautious. Now, he risks a smile, sometimes even starts conversation about school or the flavor of the cake. Going to school was hard. Lucas said he didn't need it. He could read. But really, he was afraid. The teacher welcomed him. Classmates were curious about Popoka, wanted to know his story. At recess, he shared his snack, laughed shyly at the games. On the way home, he barely spoke, but the brightness in his eyes led on. He was happy. In the afternoons, the yard is always lively. Popoka chases after a ball. Lucas teaches him to fetch sticks. From afar, staff members joke, invite Lucas to help water the young plants. The cook shows him simple recipes. Andre smiles best he can when the food turns out right. Helena, proud, smooths his hair and posts his crafts on the fridge, something new in this home. At night, Lucas showers with hot water, still odd to him, having never known a proper shower before. He hums softly to himself, a happy tune made up on the spot. Before bed, he gazes at the family photo and shyly asks if he can put his own picture up beside theirs. He's learning that this place, now, belongs to him too. And so, what was once a grand, dark, silent house has become a true home, filled with laughter, the smell of bread, barking, and hope everywhere. And all because, on a freezing night, a boy chose honesty, was given shelter, and found a new beginning not just for himself, but for them all.